Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome once again to the 34th edition of Storage and Handling Knowledge Series webinar that we have been having consistently month after month since the last almost 3 years now. It would not have been possible without patronizing audience like yourself who have been motivating us every time that we have been coming with one topic. And we have been getting a lot of encouragement from the industry to continue this initiative. As you know, under this platform, we have been sharing various nuggets of information, especially on the intralogistics domain, right from various types of storage systems, material handling system, the safety practices. We have gone deeper into some technologies also like batteries, chargers, transmission systems. We have spoken about automations. We have spoken about the different types of warehouse boxes, how to increase productivity, efficiency. So basically, this is an initiative where we have used the domain knowledge that we have gained and our industry colleagues to give back to the industry what we have learned in so many years. And we, as you know, that we have never used this platform for any product promotion or for launching anything or doing any marketing activity. The sole purpose is pure knowledge sharing and, as I said, contributing to the industry that we have always been a part of. Now, today's session is another link to the same chain that we have been building over the last 3 years, and it would not have come at a more opportune time. Let me explain why it is the most opportune time. See, we know that India is a growth story, and the country is aspiring to be a 5 trillion economy in the next 3 to 4 years and a 7 trillion economy by 2030. Now, any economy which has to grow has logistics as one of the key components that has to be managed. Currently, our logistics costs are almost like 14% of GDP, wherein in developed countries, this figure is single digit. So, in case we have to grow the economy, logistics becomes a very important parameter for us to be globally competitive. Now, government has recognized this factor long ago, and they have come up with various initiatives in this space, giving infrastructure status to the logistics industry, PM Gati Shakti plan, the national logistics policy. All these initiatives are in the same direction. Now, uh, it is just at the right time that this association, Warehouse Association of India, has come up and it is in complete synchronization with the government initiatives that I just spoke about. Now, let me talk about why this is so important. This is because when we talk about logistics, warehouses are an important part of this whole ecosystem. And if I just share a matrice that warehouse stock per capita in US is 4.4 square meters. In UK, it is 1.09. In China, it is zero point 0.8. And guess what it is in India? It is just 0.02. So while government is focusing on improving the logistics efficiency and all that, the warehouses need to come up to speed to be a part of this developmental initiative. And that's what is the core purpose of Warehouse Association of India, which we are going to discuss today in absolute detail. And let me introduce the speaker today. It's an absolute honor and privilege to have Mr. Manu Bhalla, who is the founder and president of Warehouse Association of India, to enlighten us on the purpose and direction of Warehouse Association of India. Now, in this session, he is going to take us through the genesis of this association, and is also going to talk about why this is so important. Now, talking about Mr. Bhalla, he holds over 25 years of experience in the supply chain logistics, freight forwarding and engineering industries domain. He is the director and global head of contract logistics and supply chain at Freight Systems Group. He has received the Freight Personality of the Year in 2013, ELSC Exemplary Leadership Award in 2014, and CII Supply Chain and Logistics Excellence Award for Supply Chain Innovation in 2016, and many more awards such as these. He has been associated with industry organizations like the International Warehousing and Logistics Association, IWLA, FICCI National Logistics Committee, and CIA National Council of Logistics. We could not have had any other dignitary other than Mr. Bhalla who can take us through this great initiative of Warehouse Association of India. So before I hand over to Mr. Bhalla, I just have a few ground rules to explain. Please post your questions in the Q&A section anytime during the course of the presentation, and we'll take it subject to availability of time at the end of the session. Request you to please post your name and the name of your company, so that in case we are not able to take your question during the session, we are able to get back to you after the session is over through an email. And if you do not share your credentials, it will be difficult to get back to you. With that, and without wasting more time, I will request Mr. Bhalla to take out from here and let us have a very insightful session on Warehouse Association of India purpose and direction. Over to you, Mr. Bhalla.
Thank you so much, Abhishek, and thank you to all the people in Godrej who kind of put this together for us. It's thank you for the opportunity, and also welcome to Warehousing Association of India as one of our members. So without much ado, I know that why has been in the news, in the logistics and supply chain news for India. So I'm just going to walk you through a little bit about us as an association, what we are doing, and the journey forward. And in addition to that, I'm also going to talk a little bit about the warehousing industry oversee, the opportunities as well as the challenges. So I'm going to go through, and you, like Abhishek said, kindly reserve your questions and you can post them in the chat box, and we'll try to answer as many of those questions as possible after the presentation. Thank you for your patience. So Warehousing Association is what I'm here to speak about today. So the background is like this, that with significant growth and expected demand for warehousing in India, driven by e-commerce, 3PL and other industries, there was a need for a body to represent, plan and coordinate this particular industry's activity. So this is the background how Warehousing Association was formed in October 2021. Be the nodal body to facilitate the ease of establishing and operating world-class warehouses in India across the entire value chain of all the stakeholders. And that is the developers, the operators, and users of the warehouse. Okay. Okay, so this is our mission statement. So to promote and establish world-class sustainable warehouses in India, standardization of warehousing infrastructure and processes, facilitate the setting up of intelligent warehouses through automation to bring greater efficacy and productivity in warehouses, grading and rating of warehouses, skilling of the warehousing workforce, and to collaborate closely with the government and non-government institutes. Our objective, promote the rapid development in India of warehousing industry and its complete ecosystem, like I mentioned, of warehouses, owners, operators, users, developers, as well as service providers. Support to ease the setup and operations of warehousing. by friendlier rules and regulations, represent and share concerns and issues of stakeholders, along with all the members of the association with the authorities, and to be a nodal agency for providing information and advisory services. We have to promote, the association is here to promote the interest of warehousing industry, facilitate healthy interface between warehousing industry, government, etc. We also would like to eventually compile a digital national warehouse repository with details of all the warehouses, the sellers, the retailers, operators, and so on this particular repository. Government is also working towards that through their Gati Shakti and ULIPS program, and at some point we will be having access to government interface. The other objective, like I mentioned earlier, is to provide training and skilling as well as upskilling of warehouses, so that of the warehousing staff, so that they can get gainful employment. We want to manage and promote cohesive relationships between all the multiple stakeholders. Some of the key projects and milestones that we achieved in 2022. The first major engagement we had was between Y and the Karnataka government via KPNG. And actually, the government of Karnataka asked us to be part of the discussions, since they had formulated their warehousing and logistics policy. The next important milestone that we had was the launch of the warehousing standards it was launched during the National Logistics Policy launched by Prime Minister Modi on September 17, 19, 2022. So we were very fortunate. This is one of the major publications that was launched at a National Logistics Policy launch. And now this particular handbook, it is available for download on the Y website. So in case anybody would like to download the soft copy of the handbook, please do download it from the Y website. We have already started work on the 2023 warehousing standards handbook, and you will be hearing more about that in the slides to come. So the other major event was that we held a National Logistics Policy Conference straight after the launch. And we also launched the ease of doing business for 3 states that we had taken up as a pilot of Maharashtra, UP and Haryana. And we had a lot of dignitaries, representatives from the government. We had the minister grace the occasion, and it was a very successful event that we had. And this is now going to be our annual event. And I would, look forward to participation of more of the industry and trade members. So in continuation of the milestones, we also released the report for the ease of establishment and operating warehouses in the states of Haryana, Maharashtra, and UP, along with Ernst & Young. That report was very well received, and we are working with not only the central government, but each of the state governments as well, to try and implement some of the suggestions that we had put forward in this report. This warehousing report was actually launched by Sri Suresh Kakani, IS Managing Director of Maharashtra Industrial Township, in the presence of Sri Bhardwaj and other senior members from DPIIT and the government. One of the other interesting engagements that we are going to embark on is that with the Asian Development Bank. Now, as you are aware, Asian Development Bank is very closely working with the government of India related to the warehousing infrastructure in the country. And we are the engagement which we are taking up is around the inclusion of ladies in the logistics world. So that is another project that we are going to be taking up. In addition to this, we have signed an MOU with Naredco, CVSL, which is now Scale, ASSOCHAM, and we are and of course DPIIT as well. And we are engaging with the Delhi government for the urban logistics policy. So we have launched a report for urban logistics, which has been shared by by Y with the government of Delhi. One of the other things that we did during the year last year, 2022, is that we participated closely with Ernst & Young in the Leads exercise management. For those of you who do not know what Leads is, so this Leads is actually something like the Logistics Performance Index report, which is published by the World Bank. Leads is an India report which basically represents the logistics and ease across states in India. So basically, there is a rating program that happens on the efficiency of logistics in each state. So that's a wonderful report. And again, for those who are interested, please do download. You can download the Leads report from the Y website as well. The other thing that we are doing is we are constantly engaging with Skill Council in one way or another, trying to see how we can work together to upskill and cross-skill as well as skill people for our warehousing industry. Because in the following slides, you will see that the warehousing industry is growing very rapidly, but we must have a skilled workforce to efficiently operate those warehouses. The other thing that we have done is we are now part, as why we are part of AMTOY. Many of the logistics and freight forwarding companies are members of AMTOY. I am now on the extended board, and so is our vice president and few of our senior office bearers. So we do take part in AMTOY, and we are working with them jointly on some initiatives along GST and, of course, suggestions for national logistics policy, ULIP, and so on. So now what we are looking for 2023, our calendar for 2023 is what we are sort of carving out. So we're going to continue the engagement with DPIIT and of course Ministry of Commerce in doing several joint projects connected in connection with Gati Shakti, ease of doing business and so on. And we've just participated in a workshop on the logistics cost of India. So it's a very interesting study, which I think it was in the paper and news as well, that NCAER as well as many of the industry associations, leaders, practitioners, academicians from across the world actually have joined in, and we are trying to establish the true logistics cost in India. So, like Abhishek said at the opening remarks, that there is a number that the industry refers to. It's 14% of GDP, but really, we are studying whether that number is correct or not, because a lot depends on the methodology adopted in arriving at the true logistics cost. So, and there have been different studies from time to time, and so there is going to be a new study, and we have formed a task force of which Warehousing Association and is a member of the task force, and I'm leading that initiative along with other members from other industries and associations to give our views on how we should be calculating the logistics cost, what is the methodology, and arrive at a true and correct number which truly represents the logistics cost of India. Because while on one side there is we are working towards a great investment in India for manufacturing, and there are a lot of success stories that which we read about. But it's very important to have a very efficient logistics system and competitive logistics costs, which will make us competitive in the world space. Now, so that is a very, very interesting study, and I'm hoping that during this year, once the new study is complete, we will have a seminar around the logistics cost, and we would love to have all industry leaders and stakeholders to participate in that. One of the other initiatives that we are trying to undertake is around the rating and grading of warehouses in collaboration with DPIIT, BIS, and others. So that is going to be a follow-through after the 2023 handbook standards of warehousing are launched. And once the standards are established, then we will be trying to do the rating and grading of warehouses, because typically what we hear from industry participants, developers, operators, etc., saying that how do we differentiate between two warehouses which are in the same area? and one warehouse may be asking for about 12 rupees or 15 rupees per square foot as rent, whereas the other one is asking for 25 rupees a square foot. So there has to be a scientific measurement which will allow the user to make an informed decision based on certain parameters. So those parameters which we are working with, the Institute of Management, as well as other industry bodies, as well as industry leaders, to arrive again at a correct matrix to rate and grade warehouses. So it's a very, very interesting subject. And several people from all over have reached out to me saying that they would like to be a part of this initiative. So, I look forward that, in the next coming months, or at least let's try before the 31st of March 24, we should have a basic rating and grading mechanism of warehouses. I already mentioned earlier, related to our project with Asian Development Bank on diversity and inclusion. That's another first, because as we know that warehousing and logistics is one of the very large employers in India. And the workforce in India, if you look at the employable workforce in India, at least 35 to 40% are ladies, and many of them are not included in the warehousing and logistics world for various reasons. So we are going to do a benchmarking exercise. The first stage of that exercise is to understand what is the current percentage of women in the workplace of warehousing and logistics. And then we could have a near-term view of, in the next 3 to 5 years, what do each company have as part of their vision statement and of their plans going forward. So we will be engaging both with the warehousing association members as well as non-members and industries who are in the warehousing and logistics space to kind of have a dipstick test on what are their plans for inclusion and diversity in their workforce. The other major initiative is the engagement of different states on the ease of doing business across the nation. This actually is a fundamental vision of a warehousing association. I'm happy to state that with the efforts of everybody in the industry, 6 states have actually adopted a logistics policy for their states. Several other states are working on them, and they have a roadmap for that. So it's very interesting that now warehousing is becoming mainstream, and both center and state is recognizing the importance of this segment of warehousing of industry. Um, all right. I can't change my slide. Okay. The other event which we are planning is the annual conference on warehousing. It should happen before the end of this calendar year, and we are working on an agenda. Warehousing Association, we have structured it in a corporate fashion. We have 8 operating committees within the association, and one of them is events committee. We have a chairperson for each committee, and the committees include technical, technology, events, marketing communication, membership, and so many more. So I would really encourage people to join the association and participate in the industry. The other important plan we have is to do a skilling and training program. We are talking to IMA and other institutes as well. And in fact, we are also engaging with the government to see if we can get a recognized certification program for warehousing professionals. Now, I know that there are a lot of certifications on supply chain, logistics, and so on. But really, what we are talking about is upskilling. So people in the mid management range, that is from assistant manager going up to manager or senior manager, who need to upskill. Many of them are doing very well in their jobs, but they've really learned on the job, and they do not have a formal certification or recognition that will help them in their career progression. So that is something that WISE is working on, and I'm hopeful that we will start a training and training program for logistics and warehousing professionals. Um, the others, the other area of interest for us is the geospatial mapping of warehouses. And like I said, we hope to have an engagement with the government on this. And when the government is ready and they open up their portal for connectivity in the private sector, then we will have access to Gati Shakti and the ULE platforms. Now I'm going to take a pause and talk a little bit about the importance of warehousing in India, right? Uh, so why has suddenly warehousing become so important? I think all of us remember our experiences in COVID when we were struggling to receive medicines, vaccines, uh, essential goods, food, and those things. And a lot of it we were not able to get hold of because there were not enough stocks. And then if there were stocks, they were stored in a different place. It took a long time for it to reach us. But now that has truly been a learning and eye opener, and everybody from the Prime Minister's office downwards is engaged in logistics, efficiency, and including, of course, warehousing, logistics, distribution, and supply chain. Um, as we all know that the India is marching fast towards becoming a $5 trillion economy. We will become the fourth largest economy in the world very soon. I heard some numbers that by 2047 we want to touch $40 trillion. So it's a great, exciting roadmap ahead, and warehousing and logistics and supply chain an integral part of this growth story of India. Uh, so the warehousing sector, as you're aware, complements the Gati Shakti National Master Plan. For those who don't know what Gati Shakti is about, it's a very deep thought, and there's a lot of information on the internet. But primarily, it's a fantastic technical platform wherein all the ministries which are operating and all the government-owned projects have come onto one platform. What I'm told is there are more than 1,000 layers of data, and through this platform, the government can make very, very good informed decisions. For example, in the past, a port would come up very often, and then they would realize that there is no real national highway or a good quality road connecting the port. Now that was happening because the roads was being driven by another ministry, ports was another ministry, and they had their own plans and their own methodology. But now the government, I think, has put a threshold that any project over 500 crore rupees will have to uh, be tested through the Gati Shakti program. So that what will happen, there'll be a convergence of all the ministries, whether it's road, whether it's surface transport, whether it's rail, whether it's sea, the ports, telecom, aeronautics, all of these will come together, and then only projects will get sanctioned. So that's a fantastic initiative of the government, and I think it's the first of its kind in the world of this size and scale. So as Indians, we all need to be proud of what our government and the country has achieved by establishing this Gati Shakti National Master Plan. And I would encourage each one of you to read more about it. And if you have questions, you can always tag any of us, and we'd be happy to talk to you about it. There are many seminars that go on Gati Shakti, and there are many workshops as well. Now, coming back to the warehousing sector also has a very important role to play in the improvement of logistics performance index rankings, right? Because if for those of you who've been through the LPI will recognize that India is currently at about 44 out of a list of about 150 countries. And the government is driving that by 2025 we have to be in the top 25, and thereafter we should be in the top 10. So warehousing is really going to play a huge role in helping us improve our efficiency in logistics operations and services, and thereby overall bring down the logistics cost as well. There is a high potential for growth, averaging about 19% CAGR is expected over the next 5 years. So it's a great time for those people who are getting into warehousing. because there's a huge gap between the demand for A-grade warehousing and the capacity that's available. There are more slides on data points, which I will share with you in the coming slides. So this is what currently, let's say, the current transactions. So this is the volume of leasing transactions that have taken place in the last year. And so from 2017 as a base number, it's gone up from about 1.2 million square meters of lease space, going up to about 3 million in 2021, and it's expecting to touch 7 million square meters in 2026. So that is a huge growth story, average of about 19% CAGR, like I said. So it's a great time. And for those who are kind of still considering it, I would strongly recommend that you embark on your warehousing journey. And my only advice is do build A-grade warehouses, of high quality, because in times to come, the customers are going to discern between A, B, and C class of warehouses. And you build a warehouse with a life of at least 25 to 30 years. So you have to prepare for the future. Do not prepare for, how warehouses were designed in the past. So to give you an idea, there are 8 primary markets of warehousing and 13 secondary markets of warehousing, and they're on this map that you can see up here. 60% of the warehousing is actually between north and west of India. And when I say north, it's primarily NCR region, and then Mumbai and Greater Maharashtra area. So these are the bigger warehouses, large format, modern warehouses. And then it's followed by other regions like Bangalore, Hyderabad, and of course, Calcutta is following up. So like I said, there is still a demand. There's a huge opportunity for developing both in tier 1 as well as tier 2 cities. Of course, the demand in tier 2 cities is greater because there's fewer A-grade infrastructure available in tier 2 cities. And as you will see in the next few slides, that it's basically e-commerce and 3PL operators that are driving the demand for warehousing across the country. And in 2022, 29% came from 3PL and about 23% from e-commerce. And going forward, the pie of e-commerce is going to grow substantially. So, and as the penetration of e-commerce happens in tier 2 cities, that's where the real growth is going to happen. But like I said, do keep in mind, you please make an informed decision. If you want to build a warehouse, you can refer to the standards or handbook that we have published. If you need more information, please reach out to the Warehousing Association of India. We have a panel of experts. We have architects. We have design consultants. We have, even people who build warehouses. So all those companies are members of Y, and they can help you, accomplish your mission. So if you look at, I talked about Logistics Performance Index, LPI. India, the last rating took place in 2018. It was supposed to happen in 2020, and it did not happen because of COVID. And I think the next is going to happen in this year. So we'll hear about it. But there's a very strong action being taken by the government and all stakeholders to improve India's ranking. And so that is the one part. And secondly is the ease of doing business. So this data that you see here is 2019 data. And with what is happening and what you're seeing in the news, I think the index is going to jump again for India, where India's becoming a more attractive destination for people to invest and set up their manufacturing. Government is set up. They are giving a incentive, production-linked incentives. The PLI is very attractive. For those of you who are following the Apple story, India has now become the second largest manufacturing center for Apple after China. And if I understand correctly, last quarter they exported $5 billion worth of iPhones from India, including the latest ones, which is iPhone 14. So that's something that we should be proud about. Tim Cook, as you know, was in India very recently for the new Apple store opening in Mumbai, and also in Delhi. He met the Prime Minister. My company, Freight Systems, that we are proud to be engaged. We are handling some of the value chain logistics for some part of Apple supply chain in India. So there are a few slides that I'm going to present now on the economic benefits of warehousing. So if you look at it, these are the expectations of the warehousing industry. We expect to see $8 billion investment over the next 5 years in the warehousing industry. And let me tell you, investment is coming not only from all over the world, but also from Indian investors, Indian industry, Indian companies, which is really great. Along with the infrastructure, employment opportunities obviously come up, right? And then there is a trend for women being included in the workforce. It's a beneficial to the government also, because as the revenue opportunities increase, they will have a greater revenue opportunity, through stamp duty, income tax, GST, etc. So the warehousing industry is very much in sync with the Indian growth plan, and on a journey to become a $5 trillion economy, right? So there are some other positive spillover effects, as you can see on my screen. So the infrastructure created to support warehousing is also likely to benefit all the surrounding areas like roads, waterways, sewage treatment, electricity, etc. So if you roll back to 10 years ago, when China was really surging in their growth, they took a conscious decision to have a port-led development around the shores. And a large part of the infrastructure they created was, apart from roads and highways, was the warehousing infrastructure. Similarly, if you look at some of the international ports, like whether it's Antwerp or Rotterdam, they have world-class warehouses at the port. And in India too is setting up these logistics parks and multimodal logistics parks, which you will hear about in the news, that India, as part of the national logistics policy, we are setting up multimodal logistics parks across the country. And if I remember correctly, if my memory serves me right, there are about 33 multimodal logistics parks expected to come up during the next 5 years. So it's a very interesting space. In addition, warehousing, as you know, green warehousing is now becoming very important. In fact, government is giving benefits such as lowered stamp duty, greater FAR if you have a green building for warehousing, and if you deploy renewable sources of energy. And just yesterday, I was at a meeting where EDGE, which is one of the agents for World Bank and GBCI, were talking about their plans to grow EDGE certification of green warehouses in India. So this is existing policy landscape. So the National Logistics Policy was launched last year. As I mentioned, the Warehousing Association's Handbook of Warehousing Standards was also launched as part of that. 13 states have put in respective policies governing logistics and warehousing. Some of them have notified and adopted them. Some are under notification. And then Leeds rank is something amazing, because now each state is competing to be more competitive in logistics and the ease of doing logistics business in that state. And then, of course, we want to have global competitiveness. How we are being measured is through the Logistics Performance Index. So just a few pointers. It's very detailed. It's a busy slide. So if you look at it, which are the states which have given industry status to warehousing? And then, so which states have a policy on warehousing? And then which states have issued a notification that there will be a central agency or central coordination cell or a nodal department for warehousing. So we have listed this, and there's a ready reckoner. There is more information on this on the Leeds report, for those who are interested. Excuse me. So the Warehousing Association is engaging, like I said, with all the state governments. I would love to see greens all over this table. there is really no need to have any reds. There is a time when every state should have a definitive warehousing policy, enabling logistics infrastructure, enabling the ease of doing business, which will help bring logistics costs down, which will ultimately help India as a whole, as well as the consumers of India, the people who live here. We can't have such a high cost of logistics when for people to when they have to buy the essentials, they have to buy medical supplies, whatever it is, we have to have a more efficient environment and bring logistics costs down. A few key issues which impact the warehousing sector. So it starts with land. And, I think I'm just trying, we have about 10 minutes to close. So I'll try to go a little fast. I kind of get with my passion, I get too involved. So the main challenge around warehousing, it begins with the story of land. So there are very few designated spaces where you can have authorized for warehousing establishment and operation. And that is something which we are working with the government, both at the center and the state. In fact, we have a meeting on the 25th with the Ministry of Commerce. We hope to meet the minister and present to him some of the challenges which the Warehousing Association is facing and all the people in the industry. So so as you can see, the story of the challenges begins with land. I don't know, it's not an easy fix because, as you know, land is a state subject, but the government is constantly working with different states to help establish and determine zones in each area for warehousing. Laws and regulations. So for those of you who know, we need approximately 65 permissions to establish one A-grade warehouse. And those permissions can take as much as 2 years to get. So we are trying to work with the governments to establish a nodal agency that will help us efficiently get the necessary permissions and also try to reduce the number of permissions, many of which are, archaic, based on archaic laws. For many, many years, they're continuing. So this is the second ask that WI has placed before the government. So permits, like I mentioned, 65 to 70 licenses are required. There's a huge documentation requirement for these permissions. And unfortunately, every state has, his own checklist or their own requirements. And so it's very difficult for, a large player to go and comply with each state's requirement, which is different from the next state's. So we're going to try to work with the government and ask for a uniform list of approvals, which could be, a national list, right? So we could standardize what is the basic requirement across all states. So it's a journey, it's a tough work. Again, like I said, appeal to all of you to come and be part of this journey. If you're passionate about warehousing and logistics, then do something about it. So labor. So there are challenges around labor because, as you're aware, we come under Shop and Establishment Act. So there are a lot of things that are permitted and not permitted under Shop and Establishment. And at the same time, we don't come under Factories Act because that's a completely different area of work. So one of the things that we have proposed to the government is to create a new act which takes in the best of the urban logistics policy and the industrial policy and create something like, around warehousing license, so that if somebody is approved to operate a warehouse with a warehousing license, then he can avail of the benefits under that. That is, for example, 24/7, 365 days working in the warehouse, which is essential, and then allow, ladies in the workforce, ladies in night shift. So there's so much to do around policy, which prevents us. And all these things, in a way, add to the logistics cost. Goods and service tax. So as you may or may not be aware, we are not allowed to get input tax credit of GST on the inputs. When you're building a warehouse, you are not getting your input credit on the GST on the items that you buy. So that it's a difficult task, but it's on our agenda. We're working with the government. And more recently, one of the points I wanted to add here is that For example, if somebody is having a warehousing service, he needs to have a GST registration in that state to get GST credit, which again defeats the purpose of one India, one marketplace, and the entire ethos of GST. So we are going to be making a representation to the government on that as well. Other miscellaneous challenges: absence of a skilling institute. Y is trying to step in there and trying to establish a skilling institute for warehousing professionals. Warehouses, location, geospatial mapping, we've spoken about. Gati Shakti, while it's a great step in the right direction, it's a long way off before we can plot our private warehouses on that platform. Training centers like ITI, very important for warehousing professionals. Um, then we are talking about essential services. Many places in the remote area where you have to convert agricultural land by CLU, there is no power supply, there is no water supply, etc. And the industrialist or the entrepreneur has to make arrangements himself. So if we are really talking about world-class infrastructure, we do need support from the government. And also we are working with the government, or at least we are petitioning them to, incentivize us for setting up green buildings. Because as we know, to set up a green building is, costs almost 20-25% more than a standard warehouse. But then the greater objective is to bring down the carbon footprint, bring in green warehousing, best practices in line with WTO, to which India is a signatory. Yeah. So just a few summary takeaways. There are certain policy asks which are under the central government and some are under the state government. And like I said, Warehousing Association is interfacing with both the center as well as the state and trying to put forward the challenges that this industry faces before them, so that we can have a softer regulation, make it easier for people to establish world-class warehousing in India. So apart from this, a little bit more about why we have MOUs in place with DPIIT, ASSOCHAM, CVSL, which is now Scale, Narrateco, and Amtoy. Importantly, we are we are talking to ISEM and many of these institutes, LSCs, Logistics Skill Council, IMAs, Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad. TAPA is a global organization. I think all of you may have heard about it. I'm happy to say just yesterday I had a call with the executive director, and why we'll be signing an MOU with TAPA. TAPA stands for Transport and Asset Protection Association out of America. It's probably one of the highest grade of certification of warehouses that one can get in terms of asset protection, and why is going to help warehouse owners and establishments in India to get TAPA certification. So that's something great, and I'm personally very happy that we are going to be able to partner TAPA in the initiative in India. In addition to this, I'm pretty involved in IWLA, which is the International Warehousing Logistics Association, and American Warehouse Institution in India. I'm sorry, in the US, trying to get affiliations between these international associations and the Indian Warehousing Association. IWLA is more than 100 years old, and so there's a lot of learning. But I'm happy to state that some of the work that we are doing at Y, even they have not started doing in the United States. And I told them that we have come out with this e-handbook of standards of warehouses, and they really don't have one. So I've sent it to them. Who knows, maybe some of the Indian practices will be also adopted in some of those countries. So that was my 5-minute timer. I've got 5 minutes left. I think some key contacts Godrej team can pass on anybody. But like I said, we have these various chairs of different committees, and these are a few of them: policy, advocacy, technical committee, marketing, events, and so on. Please do reach out to us, and thank you for your patience. I think that's it from my side. Abhishek, thank you once again, and the Godrej team for this opportunity for me to present the Warehousing Association of India. I hand it over back to you.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Bhalla. I think we know a lot of detail about Warehouse Association of India now than what we did earlier. because you covered each and every aspect and even the background that why it is so important. So that was really, really very enriching for all the participants. So with your permission, I just have maybe two or three questions, and I think we can wrap it up in another 5 to 7 minutes. So
Sure.
shall we take those questions?
Absolutely, please. Go ahead.
Okay, so one of the questions is that, of course, you have invited the industry colleagues to be a part of this Warehouse Association of India and contribute to the development of standards that we are talking about. So, are there any credentials of who can join or anybody can join?
So what we've done is a good question, Abhishek. So first of all, we are inviting members of our warehousing association to participate in the committee. Okay. And there is a technical committee. It's headed by Mr. Mohan, who's a known figure in the space. He represents Miney. And then, of course, we have representation from Godrej, and then we have, technical people. In addition to that, we also have representation from the government, that is BIS, Bharat India Standards, right? So to answer your question, if anybody is interested, then they could make a formal application, and then we can put it to the committee, because one is the committee. The committee comprises of members of Y, and there is a parallel task force. So people who are not members of Y, who can contribute to this initiative, can opt to be a member of the task force. The task force is an ad hoc task force, and it's only specifically for this particular initiative. So I would strongly encourage that the right way would be to become a member of Y, join the technical committee. So that's an ongoing engagement. Warehousing standards is one aspect, but then the next project, like I mentioned, will be grading and rating of warehouses. So it'll be a continued engagement. I hope that answers your question, Abhishek.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Bala. So the next question is that we did speak about the 2022 version of the warehouse standards, the ebook that has come out, and we are now working on the 2023 version. Now, this is like a guiding document for a model warehouse to come up. Now, is there any thought of making it a compliance matter rather than just a guideline to be followed?
See, we debated on this, and it went to the highest levels of the government, right? And eventually, government decided that, listen, we don't want to mandate this by way of law, because it has to be driven by business, and it has to be driven by private enterprise, because then you will have another set of compliance, right? Already we've got 65 licenses to, there'll be another one, maybe a few more if we make it mandatory. So therefore, we've left it as a handbook. It's a reference guide. It incorporates a lot of the already established practices like the National Building Code, the BIS specifications. Some of the international specifications like DIN and ASTM are also included. So it's a handbook again, right? And I don't think that we need to actually mandate by law, because we are trying to simplify people's lives in doing business in India.
Right, a point well taken, Mr. Bala. And the last question is that we also spoke about skilling of workforce as one of the objectives of this association. So,
Right.
is there any thought about tying up with academic institutions so that right at the inception stage, maybe at graduation, post-graduation level, some sort of cultures and some sort of knowledge is being passed on to the guys who want to join the supply chain in their career?
Absolutely. So we are engaged, like I said. So we have a committee again on skilling, and in that we have a professor, senior professor from Institute of Management, Ahmedabad, who heads the transport and logistics. He's the lead for transport and logistics component in IMA. Then we have another person who has been with the MDI of Gurgaon. So these are people who are from the academic side. And then we have practitioners, supply chain practitioners, who are bringing a practical aspect. Because today Abhishek, there's a lot of certificates available, right? And you could have a 7-day course, you could have a 6-month course, you could have a degree course also. But what we are trying to do is we will have, if you follow the skilling cycle. So as per the Indian, there is an act for skilling, and there are levels from 1 to 7. So up to level 3 is being covered by Logistics Skill Council, and that is targeted at the gray and blue collar workers. So if anybody, let's say a forklift operator or a warehouse loader want to get certified, he can, register on the LSC and he will get certification. If somebody is, let's say, general manager and above, he can go into the more expensive programs like Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad, ISWE. I mean, you could even do University of Michigan, you could do CSE and payroll, but those are very expensive. So who gets left out is the medium band, right? That is from, like I said, assistant manager to manager. And there we are coming up with a course. A lot of it is because we have the academicians with us. We will use their good offices, but also we are having our members. Let's say freight systems. I'll be happy to have, let's say, a practical training at our warehouses, right, as management trainees. And that part, maybe 1 week training or 2 weeks training, whatever is required. So that will give people an opportunity to learn the true life skills. Yeah. And like I said, if we get associated with TAPA is a global institute, right? So these universities, I mean, we are talking to several of them, but point is they have their own, let's say, methodology and their own certification program. So it's an ongoing engagement, and but I think we can't wait any longer to get approval from a university or a college to actually start our training program. So we are starting from a minimum program. We are in the process of evaluating some learning LMS, that is learning management skills system. We will have digital learning. We are working on the content, and then we will go live. And there is separate conversations happening with both universities as well as colleges as well as the government to get affiliation. In fact, I think I've just been inducted on the board of Logistics Skill Council of India as well, and I'm trying to collaborate with LSC as well. So yeah, it's a long journey, Abhishek. Like I said, would love to have leaders like yourself, more leaders like yourself as part of the team of Why, because we are a non-profit organization, and all the people who are working here are basically taking out private time to serve this association in, I call it, nation building, right? So that's what we're at.
Right, I think that was very comprehensively answered, and I completely appreciate the fact that this is an ongoing journey. But I'm very happy to note that the first steps have been taken, and definitely WAI, I'm sure, is going to be a big contributor to the academics also on this subject. Now, with that, I think we are completely out of time, Mr. Bhalla. So I'll take this opportunity to first apologize to the audience for that small technical glitch that we had in the initial part of the session. But nevertheless, I think it was worth the wait because the content covered thereafter was really enlightening for all of us. And for that, I really thank you, Mr. Bhalla, for your time and this detailed note that you put together for all of us. And just before we sign off, there's a request for all the audience to please fill in the feedback form, which will tell us what we did right and where we need to improve. And you can also submit your suggestions on any topic that you would like us to cover, or any topic you would like us to deep dive on any of the topics that you have covered so far. So with that, Mr. Bhalla, in case you have any closing comments, or we are good to sign off at this point in time.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Abhishek. Thanks again to the Godrej team. Thank you for the audience. I don't know how many actually we are there. Regrets the technical glitches in terms of Wi-Fi failures and so on. And thank you for being very patient. So appreciate. And like I said, I would love to welcome each one of you to become a member of Why. And do reach out to us. Go through our website. You can apply or you can reach out to our secretariat and they will send you the details. So come and join and be a part of this journey. Thank you very much. Bye bye now.
Bye. Thank you, Mr. Bhalla.